Guys, kind of an interesting day. Okay, so I focused my energy on blocking this out, and I did, I just applied a little bit of fiber fill to that. Got those two low areas and blocked them out. Just trying to reduce the low areas to as much as I can to nothing. There's a little one there, and I don't want to go totally out of hand, but I'm feeling it. It's feeling really good, that kind of thing. And then I focused my energy on this band. Again, just to restate, this was all crushed in and hammered out, and that I have to deal with. I did order some 18 gauge. I don't know if I'm going to re-weld it in or what, but I need to get that pan built, put bolt the fenders on, and start dealing with, do a profile gauge off of this side. Probably start hammering and dollying and shrinking until I can get into it. But this here, there's not a lot I can change on that. So it's getting a little bit of a build. I'm going to get about 1/8 of an inch there. This is the metal, the weld, a weld seam right there, and it's going to build to about 1/8 of an inch. Just to get that profile where it needs to be. It's high and low, and I just knocked it just to get the shit off of it. But basically what I did was as I'm getting this blocked out, I'm just combing over the surface, and it's high, but I'm just combing over the surface until I can build that profile up, and then it'll give me something that I can block to. If I need to change my profile, I'll change my profile. I'll just cut out another piece of aluminum. I got to, of course, sand this down, but I want to build it up so that I can get a shape in it. It was dented in several spots, in here and in here, and then right in this neighborhood is where I started welding it on. I did build a radius profile that I wound up cutting so that I can wrap it around the edge, and same thing, across the profile. And I just was double checking to make sure that and that are identical. When I put this on, I did the same thing back when I was welding it up, but they are mirror images, so that's good news. And that, in my estimation, is probably, the easy to mid-range. Getting this rounded and consistent all the way down is not going to be the easy part. But still very happy with it. Happier than I was yesterday, and I was happy yesterday because I took my flat edge again and got my symmetry between the two sides. I probably still have a little bit more sanding. I want to start blocking with 80 grit, and when I do, it'll be kind of like what I did with the top. You can see where I cut through the regular lightweight filler, and in an attempt to make sure I'm blending good and straight, so long as each side is the same. That's what I'm looking for. So now I'll start to work on that and bring this all together, but I need to get this metal work done. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I took the scouring pad, stripper pad, and I started and got all the paint off of this surface. Now this is just all the raw hammering that I had done when I originally got the body back almost 2 years. Almost 2 years now. I ran the disc on it one time now. You can see these areas where it was rubbing, and I'm just looking right here now to get the highest of the highs out. So at this point, this is what we're looking at, and you can see, where the epoxy primer, where I didn't, try to dish into the low spots at this point. Call it a guide coat, call it wrecking the disc. I doubt that. I do. And no matter what guys say, I know you need to go on to clean metal, but this is not going to wreck the disc, in my opinion. Anyway, but what do I know? I'm pretty new to the shrinking disc concept. Anyway, and in any event, I just shrunk that area right now. And you can see in looking at the profile that it's probably hard in the camera, but that comes over, and then this whole area is higher. Okay, this should run flatter out to match that area. And I don't know what there, maybe you can see it like that. See how nice and gentle that is? And then it comes up and curves a little sharper. All this needs to be shrunk. This was completely caved in, pushed in, probably by a forklift fork or something like that, or anything else, another car coming in and laying beside it. This entire corner was caved in. This was all folded over, and I literally took them all and just started bringing the shape out, and then you could see the evidence of the hammer-on dolly and all that stuff. So now I'm going to try to bring it back. If I can't, then I'm just going to remove it and put metal in. But I figured I'd do this. There's a couple of components to this. Number one, for me to watch these videos and see what I learned, because when you're doing it, you've got all this time into it, and you're thinking and concentrating on what the next step is and where you should go, and you're failing and you're succeeding in very, very, very small increments. So my theory is I'm going to go ahead and start on this and see what the improvements are. And as I look at the video over time, I'll learn from myself and from others, from you guys who have comments related to the process that I'm using, and maybe suggest some methods that would help me improve even more. I'm not experienced on this. This is the first shrinking disc I've ever purchased. When I did the door on the other side, I used an angle grinder. I took my 6,500 RPM disc up to 9,500 RPM or 10,000, and that's a scary thing. Don't do that. Number one is what you learn is don't do that. So then I was just jing, 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 and running it over the surface, which is a fool's game. And so anyway, I bought a larger grinder. My hand's going to be out of the way, and I'm going to 6,500 RPM as this process was designed. So bear with me on this. There'll be a few videos, hopefully over the course of a couple of days, that will show how this is going for me. Thanks again for being there and letting me know how you think. Okay. This is about 40 minutes in now, and we can see, I think, that we're starting to touch more and more and more areas. I'm still concentrating on this, and you can see that the scratches that I showed earlier are slowly coming to the surface. This is a boob right here. It is, there you can see it. And what I'm doing, hard to do with one hand, so I'm going to use my knee. There. This may need to come up a little bit, but the first thing I'm going to do is continue to tighten that. So, it is coming. I'm actually quite happy with how fast it's going, but remember, the heat is all concentrated on this is obviously darker than these areas because it's hitting multiple times here as I'm swiping across, and continue to tap it and tap it and tap it, but it has gone down a pile. So I'm going to keep on it. Again, I have to go to work. It's a weekday, but I'm going to keep on it. I guess I can see this is low. This is a dish right here. because it comes back up on this side. But I'll just keep concentrating around here with a hammer and a dolly. If I get a ting, I stop and I move and just keep on taking it down. So it's working. It's working. I'm pretty happy with it, actually. It's actually, I think, gonna work. Well, it's the next day. I have maybe an hour into it, but we can see there has been some progress. Okay, so my heat signature is now starting to expand out. I'm low here. Most of that wrinkle is gone, but I still have some dolly work, but I still have a small boob right here. And so I'm continuing to hit it with that, and then get in there and try to dolly around that area, pushing that metal together while it's still warm, I guess. I just started getting on the outside with the dolly and popping some of this out because the profile, where's my stick? I just set, there it is. So the profile, again, with the knee, not perfect, but I mean for the purpose of the video, see, we're touching over here. You know, you got to kind of find the high spot on this side, and he's got to come out there, or he's got to go down here. So as I move my knee, see, no matter what, he still has to come out. So, and I continue to do that down the side. Check, come back, tap, and it's just a rinse and repeat, back and forth, back and forth. Pretty soon I'll get a heat signature across most of the panel. I should see, or that's what I'm thinking anyway, but I should see these that I'm continuing to try to work out, you know, the little dents and dings and hammer marks that I'm continuing to try to work out. But it is starting to I know it's hard in the video, but to kind of make sense of it all. But he is starting to come together. The profile, and quite frankly, I'm not going to have barely anything for mud, but now I'm going to shoot just a little different to grab some of that white primer from the other side. So he is starting to come, and I am getting close, but I am going to work this because, you know, that's like a big freaking billboard from the back of the car, and it needs to be what it needs to be. So I'll hammer and dolly on this side to get it out, but I'm in a corner here, and there's going to be very little filler in that. So once I get the high spots down, but that profile is actually coming in, and I am getting pretty excited about it. Thanks, guys. Just another quick one here. Getting close. I went back up a little. Started up in here, evening out the welds, grabbed a little underneath the bead, started tapping it in. I got a comment that this bead needs to be straighter, and it needs to be the start. And so I'm going to finish up the stretched metal here, but I do need to come back to this. You can see, you know, I've cut it over the top of the metal where I'm starting to show, and it is wider right here, and that's a result of this damage, me restructuring this bead and taking this whole thing out because I had to dolly onto the bead to bring the profile back on some of this, and then I got to the point where I had to remove it. So this is too far out right now. Yeah, you can see that. Starts about there. Well, it starts right there, comes out, and starts to drift back in. So I'm going to have to deal with that but I'm continuing. You can see my signature marks are getting bigger and bigger as I'm working this out. This was that original scratch. At this point, he's starting to come out. There's a significant amount of time. I've got, oh my, kind of going back and forth, but I started at 5 a.m. Yeah. So I got 6 hours, you know, whatever. Realistically 5 hours, because I've been going to get coffee and stuff like that. But the reality is, though, I mean, I've got the shape. I'm using my straight edge, running down the shape. I marked the center line on it. Okay. And I can sit on, and this is a 36 inch, I can sit on 18, right? As long as I'm touching center, I can identify where the high spots are. This side is good. You know, there's a little dimple there, but I mean, the whole point is this side is good and is the profile that I'm attempting to mirror. So as long as I can identify the high spots on the straight edge or the low spots, I'm taking them down and dollying and just keeping on until I get there, until I get what I'm trying to accomplish. This is where I'm just marking where I want to make my passes with this to try to bring that metal together. But I can see, you know, the footprint that it's leaving is getting larger and larger and larger. So we'll keep plugging away. I mean, wow. Wow, that metal was pretty wrinkled, wasn't it? So I had to reconstruct. This was the original body. And where was it? Right here and down here. This was so stretched out that I did a T-cut in here and then welded them all back together to pull some of the metal in. And then this was a panel replaced that included the bead, half of the bead, and then up here, I don't remember how high up, but just a minute, there, that included a panel. There was the other half of the bead, then I stitched the bead here, and now I've got a nice surface to work off of, finally. Looking from the top, the boob is gone, and then of course it's all white here. You know, it's hard to see, but going down the side, and then when I run my straight edge on it, I considered trying to get the camera to sit like this to show you guys how she turned out, but I don't have a rig. I have a tripod, but I don't have anything that I can go like 90 degrees off of here. But it sights beautiful. It's going to actually need to be a little bit of fill in the middle. As I run on 18 inch, I mean, not even a 1/16 of an inch, which, you know, everybody else talks about that shyster, but I'm going to take and then just basically skim this with fiberglass, sand the whole surface, and then get into it with fiberglass filler. But now I've got a profile that I can use to, I'm going to finish reconstructing this high spot on the bead. But wow. Wow, it came out. I am so happy that I was able to shrink that and dolly it down. I almost completely got rid of the top scratch here. I mean, and that's a high, you can see that's a high spot, but there is, at this point, there's, you know, it's a kind of a point of no return. You get in here, a lot of guys, of course, you watch these shows and they look perfect. I show my sins, okay? I show how I'm doing it. But, you know, there will be filler in this car. But considering where this came and how far it's come, whatever, doesn't matter. It meets my expectations, lock, stock, and barrel. So, it is time to do the bead now. Time to pull that, sand that down, get that out, and get a nice perfect bead all the way across there. Well, look at that, guys. You can see, from the marks where the high spots were. I mean, you can see where the metal was folded over. Of course, we talked about that, but I'm going to hit it right in this area. I'm still not 1/8 of an inch. Somewhere 16th, probably a 16th right in this area, and you can see where it's not touching. So I'm going to start heating and dollying a little bit more here. Right now I'm at the point of overkill because I'm far within the confines of filler, but it's kind of one of those things where you're going along and you get something and you just want to get it until you can't get it anymore. So all the white is from the epoxy, that's where I was tinging out, but they're just just beneath the surface. I could sit and work all those out. I don't have the proper tool for that, the dolly, and I guess I could use a hammer and a point, but holy crap. Anyway, I'm very happy with it. I took the time to clean this whole thing up. I got, the comment on you got to get that in and you got to get that straight. So I worked and worked and worked on that, and from my sanding and stuff, it profiles light and doesn't look that spectacular, just looking at it. But the video in this case doesn't do it justice. I can't really do a good job. I can put my elbow on it on one side and hold it, but it just isn't going to work that well. I tried to figure out a way. There you go. I mean, that's in there. Oh, there, that's what I'm looking for. So now we got to get it correct. There we go. You can just see just a little bit of light on it. I'm holding it flat. And I could ting a little right here. A little right there. That is right there. I slit this and welded it and pulled it together because it was sticking out too far. But now from a profile standpoint, it's too hard to do here single-handedly. I wish I had an assistant, but she ain't coming out. But anyway, what I did was I took my distance from here all the way down, and she's consistent now. Now it's just a skim coat to clean up the square edges, the sharper edges. So I'll sand and get this profile looking right, and before I get into all that. But now we must, I'm going to finish this low area right in here by just kind of going over the whole thing with the disc, and then a little bit of dolly work, and then I'm done. Mount the rear fenders and start to work on the pan and the bottom trim piece. Well, it's a weldment. It does go back on here, so I got to start making that now. Well, bolted the rear fenders back on. Since they got this to the point of, where I don't need to cut it out and weld in a new piece and distort everything and start this process over again. I just got these little low spots that it's at the point where I can continue to think about it. Okay, if I want to tap all those out and keep on going, I can do that. But in any regard, I fabricated up 2 brackets using original holes. I made mirror images of the 2 brackets. They're 10 gauge, and then of course they hold that fender at the exact same height on either side. So that pan fuel tank cover, or that pan, which will probably serve as the rear bumper, I'm really thinking I'm going to come out here and wrap the rear bumper around here too, to replace the original hanger outer of the body type of bumper. So I'll fabricate the pan first, and then there's a body line. This will swoop down and then tie into a body line that will wrap all the way across the back and match the other side. It'll have stick out. I don't know how vertical I'm going to go with it. You know, but there'll be certainly at least a 1/2 inch gap where that pan will tuck in underneath there and run across that bottom surface there. So the pan will be attached to the fenders. It'll be underneath that body line and then terminate on the bottom. So now I got to come up with creative ways of making this pan. Hey guys, here we are. Got a piece of cardboard, eked up on it, made a hole. Well, eked up on it till I could get a hole. Then I scribed it low because this tapers in. Eked up on it again, and then set it in and scribed it again. Now you can see right here, you know, I'm adding tape to accomplish this. It'll be a radius on the sheet metal, and you can see I'm inside, so I made a line. I probably will do this trimming at the very end anyway. It is straight and square in the finished piece, 47 and 5/8 or something like that on both of them. I'm touching all the way across. She's got a little bit of sag in it. I'm not too worried about the sag right now. I'm more worried about whether the profile fits and I can stay within, say, you know, 1/4 inch would be nice from the body. So now I'm going to transfer this template because I'm not pulling the tank out. That's got to be there, but I'm going to keep the hole smaller than the rubber grommet that will eventually go in there. So right now I've got a profile that'll work. I can transfer it then to the sheet metal, and I got enough excess here that I can roll under, and I'm going to, of course, beef it up on the bottom. But so now I'm going to get this profile, get this piece cut out of sheet metal, and begin rolling that profile, that top profile on it. So there's what we got going so far.
Washers to cinch it down. Want to get the most out of one.
Perfect. So you saw the cardboard template. Added some tape to the corners so that I could get as close as possible to the sheet metal. Transferred that to the to the piece, tipped it in my tipping die set with my table, because it was, you know, it's 48 inches long. I just sheared the end of a 48-inch piece. So I tipped it on my bead roller, homemade, and then I dollied it up on the edge. I stuck the cardboard profile in here to locate the fuel hole. Now this hole may have to be bigger, and it may have to be bigger because it's going to take a rubber boot and neck down. But at this point, what I'm attempting to do is get it as close as possible, and then identify it or mark it over the piece, over the filler itself. You can see I have dollied a little onto here, but it dollied really nice. So now I've got the profile of the car on there. I am too wide because I used a 48-inch piece. It's 47 3/4. Pardon me. It's 46 3/4 wide. So I'm taking a fair amount off. But just in the event that there's a little E or E on there, now I can mark the sides, right? And trim them properly for good fitment. This is 18 gauge material, and I'm gonna slip it on there, and I'll give you a quick video here, but I can't carry the phone for whatever reason, and this piece, it's pretty heavy. Okay, so we can see that the piece is gone. It's been about 30 seconds since I did the last video. So now, with that rolled edge, we got a nice stiff channel. I'm sitting on here. I can identify, you can see my mark I made is you know, part of where it's going, that side's going to get cut, and where this side, I'm cutting it outside of that mark, because that's where I use the flapper disc to cut it up. So at this point now, carefully mark each side, carefully cut each side so that I can get a finish, and then identify where I'm going to start rolling the corners here. So it's going fine. It's going to look pretty. Don't know if I'm going to bead roll. I don't know what I'm going to do. So, and you can see here, so as I push that up, I'm not dead on center on the hole. Okay? I'm off to one side a little bit. It's not that big of a deal because the grommet's got to be like, this is a 2-inch hole. The grommet that goes in here, I'll just purchase a grommet, but it'll be, it'll stack up like 1.5 inches. But that grommet will be 2 3/4. So the 2-inch hole and a 1 5/8 field bung, I can offset that. I can even go to 3-inch, but I want to keep it somewhat tight. The other thing is when it lays down, it's going to actually be at an angle to that. So this side here will get closer. So I'm not overly concerned about that. I just don't want interference as I'm trying to do layout. It's a small hole that allows me some movement, while at the same time knowing that I'm going to have to go in and make it bigger. So just hope I don't have to cut it out with the tin snips. You know, I doubt I will ever do something like that with the tin snips. So, okay, more later.